This is the story of Gerald Thompson, a man who spent 32 years building a life he was proud of, a man who thought the hard part was behind him, a man who lost everything at 58 years old and somehow, against all odds, built something even greater from the ruins. Everyone who knew Gerald called him Cap. The nickname started with his wife, Margaret, when they were just 23 years old, barely married, barely adults, barely sure of anything. She said he always walked into every room like he had a plan, like he was the captain of something, even when he was completely lost inside. The name stuck for the rest of his life. His children called him Cap. His colleagues called him Cap. On the worst days of his life, when he could barely recognize the man in the mirror, that name was the only thing reminding him of who he used to be. Before we begin, if you are new here, welcome to the Family Success Stories, where every single day we share real stories of struggle, sacrifice, and success. If stories like these inspire you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because today's story is one of the most powerful we have ever shared. And before we dive in, drop a comment and tell me which city or country you are watching from today. I love seeing where all of you tune in from, and it genuinely makes my day. All right, let us get into it. Gerald spent 32 years working as a senior engineer at a manufacturing company in Seattle, Washington. He started there at 26, fresh out of graduate school, nervous and hungry and ready to prove himself. He worked his way up slowly and honestly, the way people used to do things. By the time he was 40, he was managing a team. By 45, he had his own division. By 50, he had a corner office, a strong salary, a retirement plan, and the quiet satisfaction of a man who believed he had figured out how life was supposed to work. He and Margaret had built a beautiful life together in Seattle. They raised 2 children, Marcus and Diana, in a house they were proud of. They took family vacations every summer. They had date nights every Friday without fail for 30 years. They talked about what they would do when Gerald retired: travel to Italy, buy a small boat, spend mornings drinking coffee on the back porch without any alarm clocks. They had plans. They had dreams. They had time, or so they thought. When Gerald was 58 years old, 3 things happened in the same year that brought everything he had built crashing down around him. And it is important to understand that sometimes life does not just knock you down once. Sometimes it waits until you are already on the ground and hits you again and again. The first blow came in January. The company Gerald had given 32 years of his life to was acquired by a larger corporation. He found out the way most people find out about these things. A meeting called with no warning, a room full of people who could not make eye contact, and a human resources representative sliding a severance package across the table. 32 years, a cardboard box, a handshake, and a door. Gerald was 58 years old and unemployed for the first time in his adult life. He told himself it was fine. He told Margaret it was fine. He said he would find something new within a few months. He had experience, connections, a strong resume. He was not worried. Not yet. The second blow came in April. Margaret had not been feeling well for several weeks. She kept saying it was nothing, kept saying she was just tired, kept telling Gerald to stop fussing. The diagnosis, when it finally came, was stage 3 cancer, the kind that does not announce itself until it has already been there for a while. Gerald held it together every single day for the 14 months that followed. He went to every appointment. He sat through every treatment. He learned the names of every medication. He cooked her meals when she could not stand in the kitchen. He read to her when she was too tired to hold a book. He slept in the hospital chair next to her bed more nights than anyone could count. And the bills came. Despite insurance, despite everything, the costs were staggering. They drained their savings account. They cashed out investments. They used the retirement fund they had spent 30 years building. Every plan they had made for their future together was quietly dismantled, one medical bill at a time. The third blow came on a Tuesday morning in November. Gerald was holding Margaret's hand. The room was quiet. The morning light was coming through the window in that soft gray Seattle way. And she was gone. 59 years old. No wife, no job, no savings, no plan. Gerald went home to a house that felt like it belonged to someone else. A museum of a life he used to have. Margaret's reading glasses still on the nightstand. Her handwriting still on the grocery list on the refrigerator. Her coat still hanging by the front door. He could not bring himself to move any of it. For almost a full year, Gerald did very little. He stopped calling friends. He stopped going to church. He ate whatever was easy and slept whenever he could, and spent most of his days sitting in the living room watching television without really watching it at all. His son Marcus drove 4 hours every other weekend just to check on him. His daughter Diana called every single day without missing once. Gerald did not always answer, but she called anyway. One Sunday morning, Marcus sat across from Gerald at the kitchen table. He had made coffee and put a cup in front of his father and sat down, quietly for a long moment. And then he said very simply, "Dad, Mom would not recognize the man sitting in front of me right now." Gerald did not say anything. He just nodded, because Marcus was right. That night, Gerald went to his desk. the same desk where he had drafted engineering proposals for 3 decades. He pulled out a yellow legal pad. Margaret always teased him about his yellow legal pads, and he wrote down everything he still knew how to do, every skill, every area of expertise, every problem he had ever solved in 32 years of work. It took him 2 hours to fill both sides of 4 pages. 32 years of experience does not disappear because a company hands you a cardboard box. Gerald had forgotten that. He needed to remember it. He registered as an independent consultant the following week. He reached out to former colleagues, old contacts, small manufacturing, businesses in the Seattle area that he knew were operating without proper engineering oversight. He offered his services at a modest rate just to get his foot in the door. The first month was slow. The second month was a little better. By the fourth month, he had 5 regular clients and more work than he had expected. He worked from his home office. The same desk, the yellow legal pads, Margaret's reading glasses still on the nightstand in the next room. Some mornings before he started work, he would look at those glasses and say quietly, "All right, Margaret, let us see what today brings." At 61, Gerald met a young engineer named David at an industry networking event. David was 34, sharp, ambitious, and frustrated that nobody was giving him a real chance. He reminded Gerald so much of himself at that age that it almost hurt. Gerald offered him a partnership, best decision he ever made. Together they grew faster than either could have alone. David brought energy and new ideas. Gerald brought experience and credibility. At 63, they officially registered Thompson Engineering Consultants as a proper firm with a real office in downtown Seattle. Gerald stood outside the office on opening day and looked at their names on the door and thought about the Tuesday morning in November when he held Margaret's hand for the last time. He thought about the year he spent disappearing. He thought about Marcus at the kitchen table. He thought about the yellow legal pad. At 65, Thompson Engineering Consultants had 17 active clients across Washington and Oregon and a team of 6 people. At 67, Gerald was invited to speak at a major industry conference in Seattle, the same industry that had handed him a cardboard box 9 years earlier. He wore his best suit, the one Margaret had picked out years ago and made him keep for special occasions. He stood at that podium and looked out at a room full of engineers, most of them half his age, and he said, "The best chapter of my professional life began at 59 years old. I had no money, no job, and no idea what came next. But I had 32 years of knowledge that nobody could take from me, and I had a yellow legal pad. So do not let anyone tell you that your best days are behind you." The room gave him a standing ovation. Gerald stood there and thought about Margaret, and he knew she was somewhere laughing that soft laugh of hers and saying, "I told you, Cap. I told you." Before you go, here is what Gerald Cap Thompson's story teaches us. 1. Losing your job at 58 is not the end of your career. It is the beginning of your real one. Experience never expires. 2. Sometimes life hits you more than once in the same year. That does not mean it has won. It means your comeback will be that much more powerful. 3. Grief will try to make you disappear. Let it hurt, but do not let it take up permanent residence in your life. 4. The people who love you will keep showing up at your door even when you stop answering. Let them in. 5. One honest sentence from someone who loves you can be the thing that saves your life. Listen to those people. 6. Write down everything you know. 32 years of experience fills more pages than you think. Your knowledge is your greatest asset. 7. Modest rates open doors. Excellence and reliability keep them open. 8. Starting over at 60 is not embarrassing. It is one of the most courageous things a human being can do. 9. The right young partner is not competition. They are the energy you need to go further than you could go alone. 10. A late wife's belief in you does not expire when she does. Carry it forward every single day. 11. A proper office with your name on the door is not just a room. It is proof that you refuse to disappear. 12. The industry that handed you a cardboard box will one day ask you to stand at their podium. Be ready for that moment. 13. Your best suit should be worn. Your best days should be lived. Do not save either one for someday. 14. A yellow legal pad, a standing ovation, and Margaret's reading glasses still on the nightstand. That is what it looks like when a man refuses to let his story end before it is finished. If this story moved you, make sure you are subscribed to the Family Success Stories, because we upload a brand new true story every single day. Drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from today. I read every single one and it truly makes my day. Until tomorrow, Cap kept going at 59, and so can you.